The railways have been an important part of our country's history, from the foundation of the Stockton and Darlington Railway to the Big Four, and the golden days of steam to the modernisation plan and high-speed rail. But with steam engines retired on the national network and preservation lines providing people with a look into the past and keeping the history of the railways alive, one part of the UK is a unique case when it comes to the railway motive power. Found just off the west coast near Barrow-in-Furness, the island of Sodor stands out in railway preservation as being the only railway still running revenue-earning steam services alongside diesels and electrics of older classes on a daily basis. In this series we look at the North Western Railway, its main line and its many branch lines, as well as the narrow gauge Skarloey Railway and the Arsdale 15-inch gauge line. This is the history of Sodor. In this episode, we explore the world-famous Skarloey Railway and more of the railway infrastructure around Crovans Gate, where we will start off. The main station was built in the 1860s to coincide with the construction of the Skarloey Railway, beginning its life in the early 1800s as a horse-drawn plateway to get resources down from the hills. It eventually evolved into the much-loved narrow-gauge line known today, featuring a direct passenger connection at the mainline station, as well as a transfer shed in the yard area. Crovans Gate is the home of the main sheds for these little engines, where the railway's first two engines still run to this day, Skarloey and Rheneas, named after locations along the line. These two fine engines are well over 100 years old and still going strong. Skarloey was the first to arrive and was originally a cabless engine, but was soon given the upgrade of a cab and rear trailing wheels after he threw his crew off with some rough riding, leaving Rheneas in the shed as he was still cabless until he too was upgraded. You will also see other additions to the railway such as Sir Handel, Peter Sam, Duke, Smudger and Lyra, all ex-Mid-Sodor engines who have all returned to Sodor after a time away or been found high in the hills buried and asleep. They are also joined by Duncan, Rusty and Fred from the other railways, and Ivo Hugh, a purpose-built engine that has only just come into traffic. The main sheds are built just across the main line at the Crovan Gate Steamworks. As mentioned in previous episodes, the Steamworks is the main workshop for the NWR, as well as having a workshop for the Skarloey engines. The Steamworks has expanded a lot over the years. Originally built in the 1890s by the precursor railways, an agreement was formed between them all that they would share the space and teams would work together on all of the engines, the location being picked as it's roughly the halfway mark on the island's railways, so it was easier to send all locomotives to one central location. This turned out to be rather fortunate when the NWR was formed. It absorbed the works into the sphere of influence, and the facility grew again to include the area to work on the rolling stock for the islands. Come the 1960s, with the arrival of diesels on the island, the works expanded again to accommodate the small diesel contingent. Funded by British Railways, who had ended up briefly controlling the northwestern region, moves were made to try and convert the entire works to focusing on diesel traction. Thankfully, due to a 100-year lease, knowledge of steam engines was still highly sought after at the workshop due to the Skarloey Railway having their own facilities within the complex. Come to the 80s and the arrival of Pip and Emma, more shed space was constructed to house the high-speed train, and with the railway going full privatised as a preservation society in the 70s, the works were sold off as they were no longer acquired by BR, and steam dominated the space again. It was later split off to form its own company to assist in the preservation and overhaul of steam engines for other preservation societies as well as the National Collection. NWR's fleet of diesels are no longer serviced here as they have their own works at Vickerstown. However, the island's rolling stock often had limited space to get serviced, especially the coaches, meaning a new location had to be found, and found it was. Just behind the works, less than half a mile away, an old factory had been demolished and the land sat empty. Purchased by the Steamworks, the land was cleared and a new train care depot was built. With plenty of storage space, the depot takes all of the NWR's spare rolling stock in stores, cleans and services it between rotations, replacing chairs, wiring and any minor cosmetic work that needs to be carried out. as well as taking on contracts from mainline operators and other preservation groups. Any major works being done to the carriages or trucks will be undertaken at the main work site. Jeff, the Class 47, will often be seen moving to and from the two locations with coaches when he isn't out on the line doing other major work. Because of the railway's influence on the town, it has grown massively and become an almost industrial force on the island, with several lines converging on the town. It's become a major junction at times, the main works almost being completely surrounded in running lines. It's become a popular location for tourists just for the main line alone, seeing a massive amount of freight movement from the nearby ironworks and power station, as well as the freshly constructed container terminal, helping to ship Sodor's goods off the island, as well as import products from around the world. We now depart Crovan's Gate with one of the famous little engines. Passing behind Terminal 2 of the container yard, the line heads out into the mountains. First crossing over a section of standard gauge track and past a popular picnic spot, the line swings round into a small market square. Trains will pass through slowly and the railway employs a local to monitor the track and control trains in and out of the village. At the moment, that person is the local vicar. Just outside the village is the transfer yards, the original end of the horse-drawn plateway. A connection to the standard gauge here has been around for as long as the railway has existed. Not used much now due to time constraints with transferring goods on open track. It is now used more as a storage facility and a drop-off and loading place for local shipments. Just around the bend, the line drops down to Bluebell Valley with a request stop to the standard gauge branch line. Both lines will meet up again at the wharf, a small dock area with a mix of standard gauge and narrow gauge that branches off the main Skarloey Railway's running line. The larger trains being shunted about by Den and Dart, while the narrow gauge engines will take it in turns. The wharf was built in the 50s to extend the freight revenue of the SKR and the NWR, housing many factories and warehouses. The little engines are able to help move goods around the wharf, keeping the individual businesses going, including the Valley Microbrewery. Owen the steam crane helps move fish from the ships to the railways, which then get loaded onto the SKR and taken fresh into the valley, connecting many of the canals of Sodor to this industrial mega house. We now leave the wharf and the standard gauge line and head into the heart of the mountains, running along the coast of a small lake and past a now closed pub. The line crosses over itself and loops back round to Strawberry Grove, used to drop people off to fish on the edge of the lake, and the railway will even leave some refrigerated vans to store any caught fish. The line now continues down the valley, passing through a tunnel before beginning to climb again, crossing over small ravines before coming to a small Y. The track to the left is currently disused, but to the right the line continues following the path of the old plateway, coming up to their very own viaduct, one of the tallest bridges on the island. Built when the railway was formed, the old plateway used a rope and pulley system to move loads across in buckets. This is where we arrive at Renaeus Station, based next to a waterfall. The location was popular with early travellers for its outstanding natural beauty. Departing over the rushing waters, the railway bends and twists its way through the jagged rocks, crossing over another viaduct with a farm track under the line. It slowly begins to come down from the side of the hill before meeting the edge of the lake, where the line now splits in two again to begin the lake loop. We will head left now, as most services will do. The track soon begins to climb again, first passing a small scout campsite, the railway often being used to get the scouts and their supplies up to the camp, as well as offering activities for the kids to partake in. The line now clings to the side of a cliff overlooking the lake not once but twice before coming to the Iron Bridge, famously haunted by an engine that fell off one night, or so the legend says. Passing a caravan park before arriving at Skarloey Station. Acting as a passing loop for trains, it is also where the location of the slate mine joins the railway, the large mine supplying most of the UK's blue slate. The mine has exploded with demand in recent years and has become a big source of employment in the mountains, the demand being so great now that they have their own shunting engine, Ratchet. Tourists do come for guided tours around the line to see the world famous gravity incline. Loaded trucks at the top of the hill will use their weight to pull up empty ones from the bottom. We now return to Skarloey station, passing under the bridge. The running line passes through a large yard nicknamed Rusty's Yard, where a lot of the trucks were stored when not in use, and as well as having some repairs done if necessary. Engines can also spend the night here if they are needed at this end of the line the next morning. The railway keeps bending and twisting around the hills before dropping steeply on the approach to the trestle bridge that leads to the picnic woods while still on a downward trajectory. The engines are merging from the woods onto the causeway next to the old castle. Once over the water, they pass a small loop next to Elephant Park. A summer shuttle runs to Elephant Park from Lakeside, which is just under a mile away. Lakeside is the quote-unquote final stop on the line, right by the quay for the small village with a lift bridge going over the small port for freight traffic to bypass the station. Linked with the Lakeside Tugboat Company, in the summer months the Skarloey Railway will bring passengers to take trips out onto the lake on board the steam tugboat Lakeside 3, with Billy the shoeback alligator tug also moving around the lake. It is a peaceful and tranquil location and very popular with tourists. The little engines will rest here, refill with coal and water and be ready to carry on their journey. The freight line passes through the little village behind the market. The trains will even stop and unload produce for the stalls here, or to load up wood from the small carpentry shop here. While the passenger line loops round the outside where it links up at another Y before heading back up another little trestle and joining back up with the track at the Y we split off earlier, carrying on their journey along the valley and back to Crovans Gate. We thank you for coming along on this little trip. Next episode we'll be going over several of the smaller branch lines on the island of Sodor.
Reach for the wind, reach for the whistle, go where the rail may run. Reach for the song, reach for the story, follow the rainbow sun. To a shining time station where dreams can come true, waiting there for you. So much to see, so far to travel, so much to learn to know. Friends by your side, hopes to hold on to, who knows how far we'll go. To a shining time station where dreams can come true. Your own imagination's waiting there for you. To a shining time station where dreams can come true. Your own imagination's waiting there for you, waiting for you.